Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms here coming to you live from Mesa, Arizona. Hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. I know my day has not quite as I had planned, but it was a very, very good day today. Let's see, I got some work done on some projects. Started scheduling some of my post-it notes up here into my calendar, which was good. Had my accountability call, although I do have to apologize again for that, because I ended up calling my accountability partner a whole hour earlier, forgetting that I'm on Mountain Time and she's on Pacific Time. So at 9 o'clock this morning, I gave her a call, which was only 8 o'clock, a whole hour early, but she was really sweet. And I said I would call her back in an hour, which I did. But accountability, it is invaluable when you're going for goals. If you're trying to get projects done, if you're trying to get goals accomplished and everything else, having somebody that holds you accountable for the work that you're doing and the goals that you set is so important. So important. It helps you stay on track and to think that you've then got to go and report. So in being accountable, I'm playing a game with myself. Well, yeah, playing a game. I just suddenly realized that Casey Kiwi's not here next to me. He's ready to go for tomorrow. We'll talk about that in a minute. So with this James Bond thing, okay, here's my accountability thing for you. I have set the rule that, and I did this a while ago, so I'm keeping it going, that I am not allowed to watch any movies in the evening until my to-do list is done. So my reward at the end of the day for completing my work is that I get to watch a movie. In this case, it's November. It's James Bond month, for me anyway. And so I don't get to watch a James Bond movie unless my to-do list for the day is done. So I'm watching a movie tonight, which means I got my to-do list done. So I'm very proud of myself. And the fact that I have to then come on and tell you guys that, hey, I can't review this particular movie tonight. I won't be watching this movie tonight because I didn't get my list done. Yeah, that doesn't wash with me. So I am making sure I'm holding myself accountable to all of you who follow me, who watch my video, who watch my Facebook Lives, which I truly appreciate. So I'm being accountable to you guys that I'm going to come on each day in November and tell you about a James Bond movie that I watched the previous evening with what I learned in the special features, and tell you about the movie I'm going to be watching that evening. Because I don't want to have to tell you that I didn't get my to-do list done. And considering the fact that I'm coming now on at 9 p.m. Mountain Time, I feel like I've got a little extra time to get things done. So that is my goal, and that is my promise to you, that I'm going to be on here each night talking about movies. So yes, so accountability, very, very important. Tomorrow is training day. So tomorrow I get the privilege of heading up to Scottsdale, where I am going to be meeting with people from the tourism boards for Australia, New Zealand, Tahiti, Thailand, Hong Kong, Korea, South Africa, and Kenya, and asking them your questions. So for those of you who have sent me questions already, thank you. I will get back to you with the answers. But if you have a question about Australia, New Zealand, Tahiti, Thailand, Hong Kong, Korea, South Africa, or Kenya, and if you can't remember the list, there is a posting on my Facebook page. There's also a posting in the Crazy Deals travel page, in the Crazy Travel Deals page. I'll get my words mixed up. And there's also a posting on my business page, Cruise Planners Have to Cruise. So there's postings there about it. The countries are listed. The tourism boards are showing there as to which ones I'm going to be talking with tomorrow, and also learning from as well, because they all get to do presentations, and I'm kind of excited about that because I like to hear what's new, what's going to be hot in 2020 in these locations, just so that I'm aware, because if I don't know what's going on, like I say, try and stay on top of things going on in New Zealand, Australia, and South Pacific, since that's my specialty area, so that I know what's going on, so that if people are going down there, then I've got the information for them. Which reminds me, I just had a sudden thought. I have to send an email tonight. Sorry, it just suddenly popped into me. And it's not something that was on my to-do list. But I will do it before I go back to watching the movie I'm watching tonight. So tomorrow is a great chance for me to go networking And I'm going to be using some of the skills that I have learned over the years through Networking Riches, which is also coming up on November 23rd and, oh, hang on, 23rd? Yes, 23rd and 24th. Just had to check my planner. 23rd, 24th is going to be Networking Riches. It is in Los Angeles in Sherman Oaks at the Hampton Inn on Sepulveda. And there's only 50 seats available in the room, so we're capacity controlled there in person, but you can join live online. And if you attend Saturday, you get to attend Sunday as well. And if you attend both days, Casey has a really cool thing where you get to have a 30-minute consultation with him. And trust me, the amount of stuff he will tell you in that 30 minutes to help you improve your business is worth the entire weekend. Is worth more than the entire weekend. I love the first day because I always pick up new nuggets, but it tells you from you're getting ready to go to a networking event, what you do as pre-work, what you do at the event, who you talk to, what you do after the event to follow up with those that you met at the event. There's a whole process, and it's a very simple process to follow, and very, very effective. Sunday is my favorite day because this is mastermind, and this is where people's minds go even more than they did the day before. So some people have their minds blown with all the stuff that they learn on Saturday, but come Sunday, that's the mind-blowing day. It's my favorite day because I love seeing people have breakthroughs in their business when you see that light bulb goes above their head, that they've finally got something or an idea has been shared with them that they absolutely love, and all of a sudden their mind's going and my mind's going along with everybody else's. So if you want to go Networking Riches, the link is in the description for this, wherever. On my screen it's showing over here. It's havetonetwork.com. Just go there and register. So that's for the 23rd and the 24th of November. If you can't be there in person, you can attend live stream, and you will be able to participate as well, ask questions, have comments, all of that sort of stuff too. It's audience participation heavily, because there's always fun stuff that comes up with examples and stories and all that, and I love those stories. Let's see. So that's happening November 23rd, 24th. Tomorrow I'm meeting with the visitors bureaus from those countries. If you have a question, please submit it to me this evening because I'm not going to be on the computer tomorrow morning. Although if you do send it to me via Facebook message, I will get it while I'm at the event, before the event. And the event I think starts at like 9 o'clock Mountain Time. I think it's 9. I gotta double check. I know it goes like 4 or 5. It's a whole day thing. It's going to be awesome. The last time they did something like this that I attended, it was amazing. I came away with, I got writer's cramp from taking so many notes. It was awesome. So, You Only Live Twice. That was last night's movie, James Bond movie. It was the 5th movie to come out. It came out in 1967. Boy, what a movie that is. I mean, I love the movie. It's great. The sets on it are incredible. The stunts, amazing. But finding out, watching the special feature afterwards with how they did it, it was like, oh my God. So, so this all started in You Only Live Twice started in 1962 when Ian Fleming went to Japan to research Japan for his story. The book came out in 1964 and was an immediate bestseller. Remember last night I was talking about the 6.6 million books that he was selling? This was one of them. It was the most difficult and dangerous film to date that they had to film. And I was like, really? Wonder why. And so I just started watching it, and it was just like, wow. They had huge release pressure with the release dates approaching, and they didn't have any script written, and Sean Connery's contract was coming up was starting to run out, and the producers, Cubby Broccoli, Saltzman, and there was like 2 or 3 others, I can't remember who they were trying to get out of Japan, and there was a plane that came in and landed and crashed, and there was 64 people on that flight killed, and then they were trying to get out of Japan, and they managed to get seats on a flight that was going to London via Hong Kong, and 2 hours before the flight, they got invited to go to a martial arts school where they could watch the training being done and everything else, since part of the story involves ninjas. And so they went to do that, and therefore they had to not be on that flight. They couldn't be on that flight. And that flight took off, in 25 minutes after takeoff, it disintegrated over Mount Fuji, and everybody on board was killed. So that sort of became the theme for You Only Live Twice. Then they started filming in July 4th, 1966, they started filming, and it was released in summer of 67. So they had a year. You got to remember, this is back in the 60s. They didn't have all that computer stuff that you do now. You're not taking 2 to 3 years to make a movie. They're doing these movies within a 12-month period or less. Remember, there was one that we did the other day that started filming on April 1st and was released in October. It's not long, May, June, July, August, September, October. 6 months. They did a film in 6 months. Go figure. Why does it take 2 to 3 years for them to do films these days? It's crazy. One of them heard this interview with this guy who was a Wing Commander Ken Wallace, about a gyrocopter thing that he had invented. So they called him up and asked him if how he would like to have a aerial battle with his gyrocopter against helicopters. He said yes. They said, bring it on down, let's have a look at this thing. They brought it all down. He got to fly it around and all that to show them what it could do. He was actually the inventor of the gyrocopter, which in the movie is called Little Nelly. And they said, can you be in Japan in 6 weeks for filming? He said, absolutely. So the end of July of 1966, they went to Japan, and as they're going to Japan, the news came out that Connery announced that this was going to be his last Bond movie. And contract renewals and everything had broken down, and there was no agreement, so he was it. They absolutely got swamped by the press when they landed in Japan, so extra security was brought in. People were taking pictures of him in the restroom. I'm like, seriously? It was like crazy. They were talking about some of this stuff. It was nuts. Part of the other thing that they had to do was film around active volcanoes in Japan. So they had that danger there as well. The gyrocopter and the helicopter flight scenes. Let's see. Wing Commander Ken Wallace said he did 85 takeoff. He did all the flying in the movie for the movie. He did 85 takeoffs and landings over 46 hours for 4 minutes on film. That's how long, 46 hours to get 4 minutes on film. And during the gyrocopter and the helicopter flight scenes, they had Johnny Jordan was the aerial photographer, and apparently he was amazing. They just rave about him. And he's in the helicopter up here, and one of the helicopters comes underneath him and somehow ends up, I think, on an updraft, got pushed up into his helicopter. And they'd had this helicopter pilot earlier who was helping them scout out places in Japan. And he told them he was a kamikaze pilot. They said we had the only surviving kamikaze pilot as our helicopter pilot. Well, it turned out this guy was flying the plane that Johnny Jordan was using, and somehow the blades came up and it cut part of his leg, and he looks down and his leg's just like hanging through this hole in the bottom of the helicopter. Well, the kamikaze pilot happened to be flying that helicopter that day and managed to land it safely, and then they were able to get Johnny Jordan out and down, and it turns out that there was this huge surgeons convention on close by, so they were able to find a surgeon to be able to reattach his leg and all this sort of stuff. And later on, during his months and months of recovery and all of that, they were taking care of him, making sure that he got the best of care and all that sort of stuff. But during his months of recovery and all of that, he said to, I think it was Cubby Brock, he said to one of the things, when they asked him how it was doing, he says, I just want it gone. He said, I want the leg taken off. And they said, are you sure? He says, yep. So they took his leg off, and within weeks he was up and around again. And he went on to do some more aerial photography in Diamonds Are Forever. And then he was filming Catch 22, and something happened and he ended up falling out of the aircraft he was in to his death. So, but they raved and raved and raved about Johnny Jordan and his aerial photography skills. And then Cubby's wife came up with the idea in the movie. You see this car chase going on, and Japanese girl that's got James Bond in the car with her calls back to her headquarters and says, you know, we need a welcoming committee and all this. We're being chased, and they said okay. And you see this big, huge helicopter one with the two rotors come in, and it's got this huge magnet underneath, and it goes clunk on top and picks up the car and takes it away. And that was Cubby Broccoli's wife's idea to have this helicopter come in and have a plane come in with a magnet and pick up the car and take it away. And then it just evolved from there. And they had sumo wrestling in the movie, and none of the sumo wrestlers would do any acting. They were going to fight for real. You want to fight? We're going to fight for real. They said, we don't do any pretend wrestling here. If you're going to film it, we're not going to drop on command or anything. We're just going to fight like we're going to wrestle like we normally do. And they refused to actually be in the movie unless they could do it for real. So this is just sort of like really cool stuff that's going on. And then they had to, back in England, they started construction on the inside of the crater that gets used. And they said there was more steel in constructing the inside of the crater set than they used in the Hilton London hotel. And the set cost, to build this set of the inside of the crater cost more than the entire production cost of Dr. No, which was the first James Bond movie. So, and then on October 31st of 66, they started shooting on the new set. They had in the grand finale in the crater, and this just blew my mind, they had over 100 stuntmen in that final crater scene and everything else, and 40 to 50 of them were coming down on the ropes, and they were coming down from such a great height that they were concerned about burning hands and all this sort of thing. So they went to what's been used before, and that's taking rubber hose and putting it around, and you just hold on to rubber hose and go down. The problem was that one of the guys came down so fast that when he landed, he broke both of his ankles. I was like, how? And then in the summer of 67, they released the movie. It is a really cool movie. It is awesome. Oh, and in one of the scenes where you see all the Japanese women swimming and everything else, it's actually Sean Connery's wife. Because some of the Japanese women couldn't swim because the current was too strong. But his wife at the time, so his first wife, was a very strong swimmer, very athletic and very strong swimmer. So she actually ended up being substituted for 5 of these different Japanese women that they were showing at various points. So she was shown swimming. So that's another little tidbit. So that was You Only Live Twice. It was the stories that came out of the production and the troubles that they had. I could see why it was the most difficult and dangerous to film. Tonight I'm watching On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which is the only time that George Lazenby got to play James Bond. He only appears in one James Bond movie. And it happens to be On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And what was kind of cute, and I totally forgot this line was in there, but I was watching the beginning of it earlier. I'm only probably about a quarter of the way through. I was watching the opening scenes and everything else, and it's really cool because you just see, like, if you remember back to Dr. No, where you don't see James Bond's face until he's around the Baccarat table, and he's lighting a cigarette, and he goes, and pans up to his face, and he goes, Bond, James Bond. This one here, you don't see George's face, you just see his hands and him driving along this coastline and getting overtaken by this crazy woman driving, and him driving up to this thing, and you don't actually really see his face till he rescues Tracy out of the water. But he ends up having this huge fight scene on the beach, which is awesome because they're into the ocean and they're rolling around on the water and the sand, and it's really cool. And then Diana Riggs, her character, manages to get away and go off, and George Lazenby's standing there, and he says, this didn't happen with the other guy. It just cracked me up that, obviously referring to Sean Connery and his past as James Bond, this didn't happen to the other guy. But yes, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is the one and only time that one actor ever did anything less than 2 James Bond movies. I mean, you've got Sean Connery did, let's see, that was 5, 6. He did 6 movies. Roger Moore did the most at, I think it was 7. Pierce Brosnan did 4. Hang on, I have the list here. Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So Sean Connery did 6. George Lazenby did 1. Then you had Roger Moore did 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 7. Then Timothy Dalton did 2. And then Pierce Brosnan did 1, 2, 3, 4. And 1, 2, 3, 4. And Daniel Craig is currently filming his 5th one. So, yeah, George Lazenby is the only one that's ever done just the one movie on Her Majesty's Secret Service, and I kind of like this one. I kind of like George Lazenby. He's not my most favorite Bond. I like Sean Connery. I prefer him as Bond, but you know, I enjoy watching George Lazenby as Bond. He does a phenomenal job for one movie. And don't forget, the competition is going through the end of the month. What is the very first James Bond movie I ever saw, and who was playing James Bond in that movie? You have to send it me via Facebook Messenger. It is the only way I will accept answers for this competition. The rules have been posted on my Facebook page. I have lots and lots of replies so far. Got some that were close. So tonight I'm going to give you a clue, another clue. So the first clue you got was, it was my very first date that I went on. My very first date I went on, I got taken to a James Bond movie. Your second clue is that this James Bond movie had an Oscar nomination. I'm not going to tell you how many nominations it got, but it had at least one Oscar nomination. Okay? So that's your second clue. Now I've got to come up with a third clue. I've got to hurry up and get to this movie so I can watch it and give you more clues. And I'm not going to tell you how many nights I got to go to get there, because then you'll figure it out. So if you want to participate and take a guess as to what the very first James Bond movie I saw on my very first date ever, and who the James Bond was, who was playing James Bond at the time, send me a private Facebook message with your answers, and the correct answers will win a prize. I haven't decided yet what the prize is going to be, but I'm working on it. Might run into some copyright issues, so I'm going to have to rethink what I was originally going to do. But it's going to be cool anyway. Yes. So that's it from me. I am going back to watch On Her Majesty's Secret Service. And then tomorrow, I've got training all day, but I will give you a report tomorrow about some of the fun things I get to learn tomorrow about Australia, New Zealand, Tahiti, Thailand, Hong Kong, Korea, South Africa, and Kenya. Okay, have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and we will catch you all tomorrow. Hei konera.